Hi, everybody. I'm back again. Hi, it's Miss Nabia. Follow me, like, share, and subscribe. You guys, the usual people, you guys know, I usually cover crime, real crime documentaries, the first 48. So, right now, obviously, you guys know it's the Alan v. Farrow documentary, episode 3. We're going to do a recap. I mean, if you guys watch this episode, you'll know there was a lot of detail this time. I mean, a lot of detail. I've got notes. I've got a lot to go through, but I'll try and go through it as quick as possible. And then, obviously, open discussion. We can just talk about the topic and whatever else it takes us into. Now, part 3 is a lot more about what actually happened behind the scenes when it comes to them going to court, what Woody was up to. I mean, little bit, not as much as about the children and stuff. I mean, in the other episodes, the previous recaps that I did, we've seen that there was a lot of home video. The only home video they kept repeating in this was the one that Mia Farrow actually took of Dylan after she said that Daddy had took her up into the attic. So now, this particular one has snippets of audio. Now, it starts with the audio of Woody and Mia Farrow just constantly. They're on the phone. So apparently, Woody was always recording her, even though he denied it. He obviously had been recording her because it's apparent. And she's always like, she's talking to him and saying that she's always been worried about him and Dylan. And why are you doing this to her? And do you not realize how much it's damaged our child? And Woody kind of is just very blasé, doesn't really say much over the phone, because he knows deep down, because remember, he's really the conniving and calculating one in this, as well as being the perpetrator. He's always thinking about, probably 3 steps ahead of Mia Farrow at this point, because she's just, in this point, she's a mom, her child's been abused. The other stepdaughter that she's had is has run off with her actual husband, her partner of over 10 years. So for her, from her side, it's more, she's kind of like always been worried, always had her instinct, always had a gut feeling that this man had been abusing this child, but never really walked in on anything and stuff like that. So she's just saying that, that the child's devastated, you've really damaged her. And then we find that the document makers actually accessed a lot of paperwork that had been locked away since the 90s. So the paperwork that they're seeing is a lot of scripts, things that Woody's done and stuff like that. Everything, like I said in the previous recap, it's always a young woman, being with an older man and in a relationship that is always trying to portray as normal and normalizing, that to us, the public, through his movies. So then Mia explains how, she ended up taking Dylan to the doctors. This is now snippets, how they jump back and forth within the time scale in the lifetime, in the story. You find that obviously they've jumped back to the part where she finds her with no panties on the day that he's took her to the attic, and she then takes her to the doctor as soon as she can. And then Dylan didn't really want to be seen. She didn't want the doctor looking at her privates because obviously she was still traumatized from what happened to her, with her dad. So she refused to actually be seen that particular day. So then they go back another day, and now the doctor actually looks at her, and then he says there was sufficient evidence of sexual abuse, and the case was then referred. Now they referred it to the New York City Child Welfare, department, and they open up an investigation. Now, while this is happening, because this actually happened in Connecticut, the Connecticut State Police got involved as well, and now they're investigating on their side. So because they it was under their jurisdiction, right, they now have to refer it to the Yale New Haven, what's it called, Yale New Haven child services kind of center. It's like a big hospital, right? Now, after that, the doctor who then referred it to the child services. Now, the child services now have to look into this. So then they realize that actually there is something to be investigated here, and they refer it to this local prosecutor, the state prosecutor in Connecticut named Frank. Now, he takes a look at this case and realizes that, okay, we need to look into this. So as the investigation is going on, in real time, Woody then decides to talk about this because the story had now kind of come out. He's been allegedly abusing his child and dating Soon Yi. So he then decides to do a press conference and says in front of everybody that he's in love with his stepdaughter Soon Yi, and that he denies anything happening between him and Dylan. And it's love. He's obviously talking about this in a loving matter, and the way a loving manner, and the way that he fell head over heels for Soon Yi, and this is love, and they should be together. And again, normalizing this for the public, and playing this kind of side where the scenario where Mia is now obviously portrayed as the scorned woman, and he's been seen in the public as a man that decided to be with, happened to fall in love with his stepdaughter, and because they're not biologically connected, somehow the public thinks, okay, it's fine because obviously they're still together today, which, is just mind-blowing. And then you hear more audio between Woody and Mia where, she just sounds like she's almost negotiating with this man. Will you stop being in the public, and will you stop talking about this? Because mind you, Mia never went into the public really and went in front of the press and spoke about this. So for her, it was more a thing where, can we just keep this out of the public eye? Because she's still trying to raise the rest of her children, through all of this, and deal with the case of him having abused their adopted daughter Dylan. So then it carries on. He in the meantime hires like this expensive PR team, has all the lawyers that he wants, to fight his case, and they obviously have a stronger team than what Mia's got, because Mia's just trying to raise her children, like I said. And then what they start to do is they'd start depicting Mia to be a horrible mother, neglected mother, horrible mother, can't look after her children, the usual stuff that men tend to do when you go into custody cases and stuff. When you go to court, it tends to get nasty, and then as the story carries on, all the newspapers were printing basically headlines about Woody, how this is love, how he fell head over heels with this stepdaughter. Just again, speaking about this like it's a normal situation where this man just moved on, and she's a woman scorned, and because she's a woman scorned, she'll say anything, and she's the one coaching Dylan to say these things, is what his defense is. She's coaching the child to say things about me, I deny everything, deny is what he's been doing till this day, basically. Now, and then stories came out about how this particular journalist decided, actually, we're not going to write in favor of Woody. We're going to actually investigate how this man has been behaving in real life. So they start going to the kindergarten where Dylan was going as a 3-year-old. So now they find out through the teachers and people that had worked there or had watched Dylan while she was in kindergarten, how Woody would sit outside in the hallway, just creepily, just like any person who, a pedophile, basically a predator, right, who sits there and watches. He would sit there and watch Dylan from the hallway and sit exactly adjacent to where the window is, just so he could watch his daughter through the, in the classroom, basically. And teachers remember this specifically, that he would do this, and they found it really weird, And then when that story came out, he was kind of caught off guard, but obviously his PR team again spinned it in his favor, because he had enough money you know, to influence everybody from the media to the city of New York. I mean, we'll get into that a bit more, because the details of the level of how corruption is involved and you know, agendas, and it's just ridiculous. This man had basically used his money, his influence, to work his way around all the official people that dealt with this case. Now, then what happened is they then requested Woody to actually take a lie detector test. Now, he then refuses and tries to tell them that he's done one himself privately, and that he will, you know, show the results of his private test. But now Frank, that prosecutor from Connecticut, said no, he needs him to do a state police lie detector test. So not accepted. So they denied that. And Woody tried, you know, he tried it anyway. Frank wasn't having it. So that was thrown out. So it's always been on record that Woody refused to take a lie detector test that the state would provide. So let's keep that in mind. Now, another part now where it jumps into is when Mia is actually asking Woody, where were you during those 20 minutes in a phone call? Where were you? Like, why were you in the house alone with Dylan? And he keeps denying the fact that he was ever with her. He denies the fact that he was ever alone with her, even though the teachers, the nanny, the French, the teacher, the French tutor, actually went to court and said that she saw what she saw in the house. The nanny who actually was with the children, the rest of the children, and knew that Dylan and Woody had gone missing for over 20 minutes in the house. So all of that added up, even though he's always denied it. So Frank then requested the help of that Yale New Haven child sex abuse clinic, right? To then assess, they wanted to assess whether Dylan had any impediments, he said, any impediments in order to testify in court, and whether she was able to perceive, recall, and relate what had actually happened to her. So they need to know these things if they want to push this case through and can use this child as a witness, because obviously this is what happened to them. Can they convey what had happened to them properly in court? And can it stand up in front of a jury? So as he's working the case and trying to build the case, now these two social workers come in. These two social workers dealt with this child and interrogated her over 9 times. So after 7 months of them investigating, they come back with a report, this child clinic, and they state that Dylan's story had inconsistencies, that the child gets mixed up and confused with fantasy and reality. Now, we all know that really the child was telling the truth. The experts that have looked into the case since have said this child has always been consistent with the details of what had actually happened to her. The fact that her dad took her into the attic, touched her, did certain things to her, molested her, you know, the alleged abuse has actually happened, because the experts say she's always been consistent with that. Now, without they're saying that as well, that the claim that Woody said that Mia was coaching the child is false, and they don't see any evidence of the child having been coached by Mia Farrow. So that was another point to point out. And then without passing any of the findings, mind you, this report came from the not child sex clinic, the child clinic in Yale, right? The Yale New Haven Child Clinic. They decided, without passing the report back to the prosecutor, they'd given it to Woody Allen's people. Now here goes Woody Allen, does a whole press conference yet again without the prosecutor even knowing the report or seeing the report. His people get the report. He then stands on the steps of this hospital or building and decides to do a speech about the fact that he's innocent and that the court has found in his favor, and that the child's story was false, and that Mia had been coaching, and all these statements that really was not, you know, what was actually happening. The report that was made, he influenced, obviously the people that he knew had influenced the report. You know, remember this child, Dylan, who'd felt like they were never happy with her answer. She said during investigation, during the interrogation of her when she was 7 years old, she felt like whatever she said wasn't good enough. Even though she was consistent with her story, it felt like they wanted her to say something else that they wanted to hear. So she's always felt that pressure, and the social workers would ask her over and over and over again, you know, what had happened and what she did and whatever. I mean, it's just shameful the way that they've put so much pressure on this child, to the point where now they find her inconsistent. Now they find her to be untrustworthy and not being honest. You know, it's just disgusting. And then the crazy part of all of this is the notes that the two social workers took. Mind you, the two social workers' name is Julia Hamilton and Jennifer Sawyers. Now, Jennifer Sawyers is the one who typed up the report. Now, what happens is the report all of a sudden is destroyed during the time of this alleged abuse. No report at all. The report is just gone missing, destroyed, can't be found. Now, people that work in that field who were in the documentary stated that reports and any little like scribblings and notes that you take never get destroyed, ever, ever, ever. So how come this child's report and notes and things that you're thinking as a social worker, things that you may have noticed, something that may have nothing to do with the questions you're asking the child, you may have scribbled on that report, all of that really needs to be seen by everybody involved in the case, but they decided to destroy it, right? Destroy it. So here comes the corruption kicks in already. Somebody is clearly getting rid of evidence that goes against Woody Allen from the beginning within the city of New York, right? Now, then you know, they find that, you know, like I said, Woody has them in their pocket. They clearly failed this child and didn't do anything. Then it goes into this caseworker gets given the case load, right, for Dylan Farrow. His name is Paul Williams, a black guy who's the caseworker, who's apparently received awards years before for being, you know, caseworker of the year. He's always getting compliments. People that have worked with him praise his work and say he always works in favor for the child and always tries to get justice for the child, the victim in these cases. So he then looks into the case and he decides, you know, with the report, he recommends that an investigation is really done into this case thoroughly and that they find out what is going on, because he believed Dylan from the beginning. He believed Dylan. So then he's told by his superiors that, and I quote, "With high-profile cases like this, it is customary for the big wigs to take over, and we, as the Child Welfare Department, do nothing," right? They do nothing. This is what his superiors are telling him. Now, I'm just like, okay, this is where your conscience or your morals now kick in. As a human being, what do you now do? Do you step away? Do you allow your job, you know, to suffer under you trying to do the right thing? You know, a lot of the time, this is what happens to us, isn't it? We don't realize that it goes against our morals, but at the end of the day, you've signed up for a job. You've signed a contract to go to work and do your job as you're told by your superiors. But when they're telling you to do something that goes against everything you believe in, what do? You know, that will be a good discussion for us to have afterwards. And then they find that basically Paul decides to not go with what they're saying and go against it. He ends up losing his job. They basically say that he didn't fulfill his contract, you know, obligations, the fact that he has to do as he's told. Right now, he loses his job. He then decides to sue the city. He sues the city, the mayor, and the HR department, right, within the child welfare department. And now, this clearly was not an ordinary case. You know, files were not being filed properly, apparently. It was that corrupt that there was a clear, strong political climate, you know, to shut this thing down. This is exactly what Paul's lawyer had said, they wanted to shut this case down and nobody to look into it. Paul was trying to get help for this child, right, mind you, but the city of New York was trying to suffocate and silence him. Now, when he wouldn't shut up, right, obviously he lost his job. Then, you know, you realize that this was not just one supervisor covering up. It was a combination of everybody. This was a system where cover up, you know, getting rid of paperwork, undermining social workers who actually are honestly trying to do their job and help this child, you know, not being able to do their job, losing their job. He then, in the end, you know, when he sues them, proved that they directed him to discuss this case, right? Basically, they directed him to discuss this case with nobody but him, the supervisors, the superior people. Now, when he realized that they're not actually doing their job, you know, he called them out, got fired. Then when he sues them, actually wins his case. The judge actually, you know, goes with judges in his favor, should I say, sorry, and you know, gives him back his job. They state him back in his position. They give him back pay for everything he's lost, losses and everything else. Now, Woody, he then tries to play dirty now and tries to get full custody of the children. Mind you, this man had never been interested, right, in raising these kids. We knew that from the beginning. If you've watched all of the episodes up until now, he never wanted children, you know, clearly just to abuse them, you know, but for nothing else. So now he then this guy comes into it. Actually, this is the important part. Richard Gardner is a guy who back in the day, years ago, right, had a parental alienation syndrome is what he came up with, where the mother reports child abuse in a custody litigation, right, where then they want to alienate the children from the father. Now, this particular strategy has been used for forever in courts, especially when it comes to custody cases, where the abuser, a lot of the time the predator, goes for full custody just to make it seem like he's the decent parent and makes the woman look like she's mentally ill, because back in the day they never understood mental health. So they would class a woman that would basically call out child abuse and say that her husband or the partner abused their children would be called mentally ill, right? So they would never even look into these cases. They would just think that that's either a woman's called, she's gone mad, basically. She's gone mad, hence why she's telling lies on her children. So this strategy, even though they found him to be untruthful, and they found that this man, it was never proven by science, it was always him publishing his own books, so everything he used to say ended up being lies, right? So this man actually came up with, you know, a couple of things that he actually said where people were just flabbergasted and said that, you know, this man is crazy. This what's his name again? Richard Gardner, right, is just coming up with things where, like, this is what he said, and I quote, "It is because society overreacts to pedophilia that children suffer." Now, this man is writing these things, you know, for people to actually read, that we don't understand the fact that children, another thing he said, children need to be sexually active, need to be sexualized from a very young age, the better it is for human race and the species as a whole, so they can reproduce more children, basically. Children need to be sexualized younger, just so we can procreate and have more children. So it is just the statements. Yes, this is what this man was saying, this Richard Gardner, right? He was making these statements and writing books and publishing them himself, right? And then people were actually using these strategies that he was coming up with, i.e. the strategy Woody Allen was using in court, because the abuser will go for full custody. That's one of his strategies, to make the woman look like a woman scorned and that she's going mad and she's making up things, is one of his strategies. So as much as people try to distance themselves from Richard Gardner ever since he came out with all these absurd, right, statements, they still use his strategies in court today when it comes to custody court litigation. That's the sad part. Like, it is just crazy. I do not understand how this man has basically been allowed to go to court, ask for full custody, you know, and yet again, money. That's all I've got to say. Money, 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 money. Money can take you anywhere, clearly, because this man was buying his way through this whole custody case. Now, Woody, right, carries on. I mean, you see home videos of Dylan where she's kind of shutting down and not wanting to talk about what her dad did to her, and, you know, at home by her social workers. She's tired at this point. So the custody case goes to court. Obviously, the judge on the 7th of June in 1993, the judge decides that on the custody case, and Mr. Allen's behavior, right? This is exactly what he said. Mr. Allen's behavior towards Dylan was grossly inappropriate, and that the measures must be taken to protect her. So even the judge could see that he was not acting right with Dylan. So he then tried to get immediate visitation with Dylan. That was denied by the judge. And then, you know, they're saying that it was unclear whether Mr. Allen, Woody Allen, would ever develop the insight and judgment that's necessary in order for him to relate to Dylan in any type of way appropriately. So the judge was not persuaded at all with the fact that Mia had coached her. So he threw that out as well. He was denied visiting Dylan for over 6 months, and they said, you know, we've got to set that up for future purposes if it's supervised or whatnot. I don't know exactly what they did there. And then he tried to get supervised visits with Satchel so he can see his one biological child he had with Mia, Satchel. But then Moses, the other adopted child, was told he can choose himself whether he wants to see his dad or not. Now, then the judge clearly does state that the Yale New Haven report was not done correctly, and the fact that all these things went missing and the mistakes were made and allegations seem less credible. When all these mistakes were made, mind you, Dylan came across less credible to all these specialists and people. So it kind of went against everything that Mia and everybody else was trying to do, because this child was abused. And, you know, Dylan was then asked, does she ever want to see her daddy again? And if she wants visitation with him and stuff. And she was so confused as to why they're still asking her if she wants to see her dad, because at the end of the day, she knew what he had done, and she changed as a young girl. She said, like, this had damaged her so much, the fact that he did this to her. You know, in the end, Woody tries to come across like nothing really happened. You know, he didn't get the custody that he wanted, and then he tries to appeal to the higher courts to get custody, to have this overturned, but the judge denied it. And they all said that, you know, they all agreed the fact that this case wasn't dealt with properly. And, you know, clearly there was corruption there. You know, I don't know what you guys think about this. Anybody who's watched it, that's a little bit of a, you know, I hope I haven't spoken too much, but that's a bit of a recap of what happened in the episode. I mean, corruption, yet again. I've dropped the link for you guys who want to join in and, you know, say your piece. I mean, the corruption within the New York, should I say, in the New York City, like the corruption alone, the mayor at that time, I actually forgot to write down his name, I think, but that was a black guy in the 90s. The mayor himself, right, yeah, tried to shut this down. So it was like everybody was against this little girl, even though it wasn't about the little girl. It was about the reason they were doing all of this is because Woody, you know, it's because Woody had money. It's because Woody, you know, was the one who was using people and trying to, you know, use his money to basically swipe this under the carpet and pretend it never happened. I want to see what's going to happen in part 4 and whether these corrupt departments were ever called out for it, because Paul Williams actually went back to his job. He went back. He still works for the child department. You know. Hi, Leslie. Thank you.
Yeah, so it was beautiful David Dinkins, who was one of the worst mayors that New York has ever had.
Yes, David Dinkins, thank you for the name. Yeah.
Followed by sleaze bucket extraordinaire Giuliani. Now, the funny part about that is that Giuliani was actually the state attorney general at the time, so it would have been his job to prosecute Allen for whatever was going on.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, he had run for mayor in, I think, 1983, and he had lost. But all of a sudden, he had all these campaign donations, and guess who won in 1994 when he ran again?
Yeah.
You know, follow the money. It's just sick. Like these people.
No, it was just, I didn't think it was corruption that was involved, right? But clearly you can see, you know, have you watched the episode? You can see that all these departments failed this child. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they were protecting him. And also, I found a handful of images.
Or your connection? I'm not sure.
Is it me? I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Let me try plugging in. Can you hear me?
Oh, you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
Oh, hold on. Let me close this out. Is that better?
Let me bring up Diali. But yeah, so hi, Diali.
Hi.
I think her connection went. She froze.
Yeah, you see, I haven't watched the last one.
Are you there? But yeah, so I'll put you down. Can you guys still hear me? Is it my connection? I thought. Sorry, did I just drop out?
Yeah.
I do apologize.
Much better now.
How long did I drop out for? I thought it was yours or mine. I'm not sure.
Seconds. It wasn't a lot.
No,
okay. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. This whole cover up, you know, this whole, how should we say, this culture of cover up due to money and people. I'm glad to see this Paul Williams, you know. Thank God for you, because the way you decided to sue the city and then won your case, like, good for you. And the fact that you went back to your job, you know what I mean? Went back to your job and said, you know what, walked in with your head held high, you know, and still kept your job. I mean, good on you. That's all I can say, because that's the only person that came across well in this. And then there was another lady, the supervisor. You know, I think, I'm not sure what her name was. Her last name was Harden. She said she'd left the job because she had to leave in the end, because she felt like her sitting there and doing this to the Black community and removing children from homes and taking perpetrators to jail, Black perpetrators, whereas Woody, who is white, money, rich, is just slipping through the cracks, right? Where he's abusing multiple children.
He's gliding right over them.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, they're just basically, let's not look at his case. Let's just wrap up the file, shred it, get rid of it, and never think about it again. It's just ridiculous. Diali, are you there?
I'm there. I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on, join in then. Hiya, Blavy.
Hi.
Yeah. Hiya, Blavy.
This is why I get so sick when people bring up child support and BS like that. Because all these wealthy men have to do is go to court and take full custody of their children for all the children they have. So that's why I don't allow stupid people, particularly the ignorant men, go around telling me about child support when if y'all all that rich who complain about it, you should be having full custody of your kid.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the way that he tried to go for full custody. And I mean, he really actually made me quite angry, because he is just the way he speaks, so calm, just patronizing, isn't it, Leslie? It pisses me off. He sounds way too, why do predators always sound so calm? They never sound, erratic and it's always that monotone, but deep down, they are disgusting.
Because then you'd be aware of it. Because then it would be obvious.
Yes, yeah.
And that's why they are good at what they do.
They are very good at what they do, yeah.
But it's disgusting. I mean, like, you would think, like, this dweeby little man, like, why didn't Mia Farrow just beat him up? Seriously. I'm sorry, but I heard you.
And that's the
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the sad part, because
Sorry, what was that, Diali?
Diali? Her connection must be slow today. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
No, I said that's the sad part, because he's a Oh, you can hear me?
No, carry on. Repeat yourself.
Is it breaking up? Is it me?
Yeah.
We got to he's up, and then it went.
Well, drop me and bring me back, please.
Okay, I will.
Well. Woody Allen, though, he could have gotten full custody of his kids had he lived in Florida.
Oh my God, he would have got full custody if it wasn't for those couple of people that, and the judge that actually looked into this and said, hold on, this man has not got the capabilities to be a dad and to look after these children. So the mom was obviously seen as somebody who looked after her biological children as well as the adopted ones. She's done it okay so far.
Why didn't her other children's father have a problem with her raising his kids? Because you're not going to have my children around a pedophile and I don't take you to court for full custody.
Right.
Yeah, why wasn't he in the picture? I mean, like, it doesn't look like she's made great life decisions. But
no. I mean, Mia Farrow comes across really timid and really,
she comes across
her
weak.
voice is very weak. You know what I mean? And then, like, the children, the way that when the story actually came out, and then how Woody tries to, I mean, look at all his lawyers. Look at all his lawyers and the team of people that he had on his side, just fighting this case, making this woman look like she's a scorned woman because she's upset he left with Soon Yi, when really underneath it, she knows this man abused his child. You know what I mean? She's being told by her own child that daddy did this, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. You know what I mean? Did you see the home videos? She's devastated.
But you know what? I didn't like that though, because it's like, why did you still allow? Why didn't she stop? I don't care if she needed a case. She could have gone to another country to make sure she couldn't extradite her kids if it was really that bad. She had enough money to put her children first and move them out of that situation. It just seems like she wanted to be right in the public's eye, and she didn't really care about the daughter. I thought it was disgusting.
The same reason she didn't leave him when Dylan came out with her allegations. That's the same reason.
Yeah. It's like some parts of it, when you hear the audio, it's like she's and I put that in my notes, like she's negotiating with the predator. Why are you talking to him? Can you please stay out of the public eye? Can we not do this, Woody? But why are you doing this, Woody? Where were you? Where were you for those 20 minutes? What are you doing talking to this man and allowing him to then record you so he can use that in court against you? Because at the end of the day, he's the one being spiteful and trying to take your kids off you, even though he's abusing them.
What I didn't understand was why did the court, like, see, this is what I don't understand these court systems. He had, even if this was a stepdaughter, like, say, like, even if he wasn't in the household, the simple fact that she is his children's sister was enough, like, of a thing. Why would you even give somebody like that full custody? Even,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad he didn't get the custody, because imagine he did. Imagine he did. Those type of things break women, mothers who are trying to raise their kids. I know she let the ball slip. She messed up with allowing that to happen right under her nose. But at the end of the day, she had other kids to take care of. So for him to try to take the kids off her, can you imagine if my child got took off me? What else is there to live for? Women lose it. We do lose it without our children, don't we? So I think that part is always the part that men will hypothetically stab you. They'll stab you in where it hurts the most, your children. At the end of the day.
It's not just men, though, is it? It's not just men. It's not just men.
No, I mean, in custody cases is what I'm saying. The husband, like that.
No, it's not just men in custody cases, because I've seen that with my own family, where the female is really vindictive and they use that child as a
yeah,
pawn.
100%. But in this case, I mean.
Yeah, in this case, Mia was losing the love of Woody to Sun Yi.
Yes,
and
yeah.
She did say it. I'm sorry, she has to take some blame. She saw the signs and she carried on, because he was telling her, you're 30-something, you'll never really work again if you don't stick with me. She was trying to win his heart back and talking softly with him. If you were a true parent, and you knew something like this was going down, you would rip his head off.
I don't understand why all those children weren't removed from the house the second that little girl blew the whistle. That is an allegation of sexual misconduct. You don't take that lightly. They should have all been gone from both their houses.
Yeah.
All of them should have just been taken. See, this is why I can't be president, because I'd be like, that's why I can't be, that's why I can't be in public office, because I would make the most messed up. Oh, really? She said that? Well, we're just going to take her away until we can figure this out. And everybody else.
No, it was just the way that this man, still is out here is what's crazy. Like, it really, really angers me the way that the world allows these people, because they've got money and because he brought so much money to the city of New York. That's all they kept talking about. This man brought a lot of money and revenue to the city of New York, whether it was filming his films, whether it was the money it brings by people coming to the cinemas. It was always about money and revenue. Sorry?
You know who else brought a lot of money to this city? Epstein. He brought a ton of money to this city.
Yeah. Again, they all have that in common, don't they?
They have a lot of things in common.
Yeah. They have a lot of things in common. These people.
Every dog has its day. Those, watch them come up and watch them fall down even quicker. These documentaries are not here just for viewing purposes. They are here so the DA can start filing papers and eventually building a strong case and bringing charges. This isn't going away. It's not going away.
No. And I think the reason that they brought up the documentary, watch, within the next year, I think he'll get arrested or something. Because, the people that were in power then can't be in power today. There's always new DAs coming up, aren't they? District attorneys, prosecutors who say, hold on, he has no power over me because I've got no foot in this. Do you know what I mean? It's nothing off my skin for me to prosecute this guy. So they'll go all in at one point. But I think right now they're just slowly building the case in the background. They would never allow all this information to come out if there wasn't more to come. It's the same with all the others. They always try to do these public documentaries that we can see as to everybody knew. Isn't it that always the case? People always knew. People who worked around him, other people that had been around, people always knew. I mean, the scripts alone, the scripts to the movies alone told his life story. All these movies that he wrote were so disturbing when you really, I never knew about his movies, but the movie clips that they've shown in this documentary are so disturbing. You really realize that this man was playing out his fantasies right in front of people and they were paying him to do so. That's the crazy part.
I think I watched like maybe 20 minutes of one time and I was like, oh,
yeah.
I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
First of all, it was boring. I thought it was poorly scripted. And it was super boring. Like, it was not relatable at all to me. So
yeah, he's very boring. He's very boring. I don't know if anybody finds him exciting.
I don't know.
Well, clearly they do. He brought in a lot of money, you know.
Yeah, but money
And
can
that's the
diminish
problem.
eventually.
When prosecutors are saying, why aren't you taking a state lie detector test? Could we get away with that? How can we say, I'm not taking the state one, I've got my own, mate, in the back, you know, I've got my own. Can I bring my own? And then we can just sign that off as I've passed it. You know, who does that? And then when you deny, how do they not subpoena you and say you've got to do one? You understand what I mean?
Because
How does the court?
Because it's
How
not
does the court make you do one? To me, it's just
here. Lie detector tests are not admissible in court. They can't use it for any purposes in court.
But they can use it to. How do they say it? Oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? They can use it to write off certain things, right?
Yes and no. They use
in a way
when they're doing pre-investigation. And anybody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I think that it goes is like they'll give you a lie detector test, and depending on the lie detector test, then they'll use that to like weed out certain things, like in like criminal investigations or whatever. Like if he flat out failed it, then they would know to keep investigating it. If he passed it or it was inconclusive, then they would, you know, then they would question the child more. Yeah. But, you know, the fact that you didn't want to take one at all, like that's kind of a red flag to me.
He denied. He said he wasn't going to take one. I've got my own. But when the prosecutor Frank said, no, you're not having your own, you know, you've got to do ours, he said he won't do one. And that was then written in the report, the fact that he denied to come in. He refused to come in and do one,
and yet they
that the state was providing. So that in itself tells you a lot. You know, that it tells you that this man knew he was guilty, and that if his blood pressure had gone up or down within certain questions, he knows that they would have looked into him even more. Do you know what I mean? You know that already.
It can also be him admitting guilt as well. You got to understand how it looks.
But you know what? Honestly, it would be interesting for me to see who's going to get wrapped up when this finally does go to trial, because it will.
Go on.
No, go ahead.
No, go on.
Because like, what do you call it? That Acosta guy that was that signed off on the sweetheart bill. For Epstein. Like he got his complete career is torn up. I really want to see Giuliani go down. I don't want to see him be able to run for office again.
Yeah, he's corrupting himself. Yeah. I mean, they even say, right, the city of New York, the amount of money that's in it, but then for some reason they don't have money to do certain things. It's because of all that corruption. You know how many people's pockets is filling up? You know what I mean? I mean, even look at the George Floyd case, God rest his soul. Look how they're giving this family 27 million. But really, when you think about it, this is just all to get them ready for, they're not really taking this man to jail. They're really letting him slide through. You watch.
I don't know. They just
think it's a preparation. I think it's we're sorry, but I don't think he's going to go to charges.
There were one 30-year charge, one 20-year charge, and another 10-year charge.
Okay, well, fingers crossed he goes to jail. But it's, again, you know, where is all this money coming from? Really? Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah,
they all have insurance policies.
These rich people seem to be getting away with murder. You know what I mean? You know, they get away with all sorts, don't they? So it's like but the sad thing is this child, when this social worker, caseworker, Paul Williams said, I believe this child, and this really needs to be looked into even further, not just, we've assessed the child and it may have happened or whatever. It really needs to be investigated. He was thrown under the bus. They didn't care that normal citizens like you and I lost their job, you know, but they didn't care about that child. The child is the main thing. How come nobody said she matters enough to take this man down? Do you know what I mean? Why?
The part is that when these people are going to school, the first rule of social work, the child is always telling the truth. Always believe the child.
Yeah.
Because they have no reason to lie.
I think the statistics were 2 to 9% of most cases that are reported tend to be false. 2 to 9. That's not a lot.
Coached by an adult, like that's not.
Yeah. And that's not a lot. I mean, being coached, and this is another thing they said. Somebody that's a child that's a lot of experts were in this documentary, right? A child that's been coached doesn't tend to repeat and be consistent with who, what, where, how, right? Those things don't change. So a child that's lying may say, because Mia kept saying in the home video, did daddy take off your panties? You know, she said no. Are you sure he didn't take off your panties? Because remember, she came home and the child had no panties on in her little nightie. So she kept on saying no, he didn't take it off. So that in itself was consistent. She never said, when Mia kept asking, did he or did he not take it off? She never said, maybe daddy did. Like, she was never coerced into changing her mind. So that in itself told the experts, this child is not lying, because if somebody can persuade you to change what you're saying, you're more likely not telling the truth because your story changes. Do you know what I mean? So that in itself said this child was telling the truth, and the mom never coached her because the mom was only asking the what, who, where, how, you know, why.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
It's disgusting. And it's disgusting that it happened and that it wasn't prosecuted at the time. But the good thing is that there's no statute of limitation on sex offense charges anymore. So he will be going to jail and he can be roomies with Bill Cosby.
Yeah. Same. I agree. Yeah. I agree, damsel in distress. Global way of doing business. I mean, it's a shame that everywhere you look, a lot of these cases, the things they have in common, again, is money, people in power, corruption, people turning a blind eye, not caring enough, even though they go home and think about what they've done. Because how do you go home and sleep or even cuddle your kids knowing that particular case you were dealing with in 1993 or whatever the year was, right? You never dealt with
because
properly.
They don't care.
How did you go home?
It's about money and power. And that's just a sacrifice they make. Then when it happens to their kid, they want to scream and shout and cry.
Or they're the ones doing it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. If it was your kid who then filed the case, us ordinary people, the person, even if I'd lied, if I said this man touched my child, trust me, this man would probably be arrested quicker than he knows, right? Then they would look into whether he did it or not. So I think, oh, Ablavi, mute yourself, will you? So I think, sorry. So I think sometimes, I've lost my bloody point now. Take over, please, Leslie.
So the guy would be arrested before they even found, and then they would investigate whether or not he did.
And then they would investigate, and that would be the normal Tom, Dick, and Harry. Do you understand what I'm saying? But with him now, they're not investigating. They're not arresting him. The man is allowed to go home. Nothing's actually happening, but it's actually true. How quick do they actually run in action for children? Like right now in New York, how many kids are getting abused, and a social worker probably visits them on a regular basis and has an inkling that there's more going on, but she's not doing, or she or he is not doing enough because the supervisor probably think it's not worth the hassle and the paperwork. How many people right now are suffering? Like,
but you know what? It's also because, like, I'm sorry, but in New York, every teacher, every nanny, every person on the street, you are a mandated reporter. If you see something off, you're supposed to. Why didn't the teachers call the cops? I was like, this guy's being a weirdo. He's just sitting here staring at this kid. She tenses up whenever she sees him. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
Where were they?
It's unbelievable how, I mean, What would you do? That's my question. Even the people in the chat, what would you do if you were a social worker? A particular case came across your desk, but you're told to turn a blind eye to the case. You're told, you know what? This is not our place to investigate. Just not right now.
I would go straight to every news outlet that can have me. I'd quit and I'd go right to the media.
You can't because you signed an NDA, so you can't. But what I would do,
but I'd quit, and then I would go.
No,
but deal with that afterwards.
No, but it doesn't diminish the NDA. It doesn't. It's called whistleblowing. You know, there's ways of whistleblowing.
Yeah.
So then I would all of a sudden forget my paperwork in front of CBS Studios. Oh, I lost it.
and then you'd be jailed.
Yeah.
You know, the fact of the matter is there was ways of combating this, and Mia is responsible just as much as the abuser. She's the mother.
Well, she is an abuser.
She was there to protect. And all this BS on this documentary now is just BS. Mia is covering her little backside before they come for her.
Listen,
so she can deny and deny and deny.
Mia Farrow is more of an abuser than he was, because when that guy was finally out and, you know, the kid had said what she said, and then she went back to him, she betrayed that child doubly. It must have been like getting abused twice.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
Like that. She did. That's worse than what he did, I think.
I mean, remember, in the background, he was grooming Sun Yi all along as well. You know, while he's doing what he's doing.
His lap. That was so.
Yeah, I mean, Sun Yi was in high school when she started going to his house. Remember, I said that in the previous recap.
Yeah, but she was sitting on his lap from the time she was 7.
Yes, yeah. And remember, Woody was caught that particular day. Those 20 minutes that they keep repeating. Woody was caught with his head between her legs. Remember, performing oral sex on her. Remember, allegedly, right?
Allegedly.
So that in itself is just the thought of that with your child, and the nanny thought she'd walked in on an adult situation when adult was performing that on another adult until she realized it was a child. You know,
did the nanny go to the police when she realized it wasn't another adult?
No, because the nanny, this particular nanny, was working for her friend. Yeah. That particular day, they brought the kids over to all play together. So the friend and her had popped out. Remember in the last recap, when they popped out and come back, they realized that the French tutor and the nanny, right, were left with the kids. So when they come back, the friend then took her 3 kids and went home. So the next day, the friend calls Mia and tells her, listen, my nanny just told me A, B, and C, that she walked in on this situation yesterday. So you should know.
You know the thing. Yeah, the thing with the NDA. The social worker, he wasn't allowed to whistleblow. There was ways of whistleblowing. He could have gone down the legal route himself. But the nanny is reporting a crime, so that does cancel the NDA. It cancels part of it, or it probably cancels all of it. What the NDA does do, the NDA protects about, you know, if you saw Woody picking his nose, or he wears holes in his trousers, or they have sex in a front room or something. That's what that protects against. The NDA does not protect against a criminal matter. It does not. And somebody could have gone to the police. At least if 20 years ago, 30 years ago, somebody would have gone, they'd have the files to say, it was reported. But nobody did anything. Nobody did anything.
Anybody talk to the other kids, though? Like, because that's not a one-off. You don't just do that to your kid.
No. And then to try and get custody of Satchel, which is their biological child, and then Moses was told by the judge he can choose whether he wants to be in touch with his dad or not. And clearly Moses was the one who was devastated because he was adopted and really looked up to Woody, then found out he was messing around with Sun Yi. I mean, it broke these children and really, really damaged their ways of even interpreting healthy relationships.
Yeah. And again, Mia's wrong again, because if you know, as a mother of even 10, 12 children, you've had a few biological children, but you've taken on the role as parent, protector. She knew something was going wrong. She knew. And to
she
still
kept
let the little
acquiring
boy,
children for him.
yeah, and to still let the little boy want to have contact with him. Suppose he was doing it to him. Remember, this hasn't really been fully investigated.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he could have done it to every single one of them.
Yeah.
He didn't have to. He was BFFs with Jeff Epstein.
Yeah.
Like,
I
let's
mean,
talk about that whole circus. Like,
remember, predators like to sometimes have something stashed away that they have at home, but then they'll venture out and do other stuff, you know, and meet other perpetrators. I can imagine that he was meeting up with Epstein and joining his little prolific parties, you know, but then coming home and being able to do that to his own child that he was obsessed with.
That's
Mind
right.
you know, he was, like I said, peeking through the window adjacent to the classroom. I mean, this man used to peek and watch his own daughter, just like a creep in the distance, watch his daughter.
Was any of that in the record if they've gone back 20, 30 years?
No,
or is this just coming out now for the documentary?
No, this was, the journalist was actually in the documentary who back then said that all of the papers were covering Woody in a good light, right? They were covering him in a way and writing about him in his favor and portraying her to be the woman scorned, you know, she's going mad, blah, blah, blah. But this particular journalist decided we need to actually find out, because Mia wasn't talking. We need to talk to her friends. We need to talk to where the kids used to go to school. So as they investigate, they find that at kindergarten, this is what he used to do.
Right, yeah.
You know, he used to drop her off at school and watch her through the window and not leave the school hallway. Can you imagine?
You know, so creepy.
But over here,
so creepy.
Yeah, exactly. But over here, I remember when my child at nursery, he was still, you know, a baby. He was not even one, or just over one, and he swore, and they had to write it down and they had to document it and put it in papers.
Yeah.
Just in case this was a thing that was not right in the home and they had to look back on their records. Where are the records that show he was peeping through the window and behaving strange?
The same place the records are from the actual investigation.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
this bit, exactly, the woman, the actual journalist, like I said, who back then went to the school and asked the people about this, had said that this is what we did, and we were actually the only ones reporting this on Woody. Everybody else was reporting in his favor and kind of, you know, scorning Mia as a mom. Yeah. So it was disgusting. I mean, it was just the way he spun it, you know, the way he spun this man's strategy is what's crazy. Remember this man that Richard Gardner, the one who apparently written all these books about how women are mentally ill and how it's parental alienation syndrome, where the mothers are where the mother reporting abuse on their children, even though maybe it might not be happening. You know what I mean? Because they're scorned and they're mentally ill. It's just ridiculous.
It is.
Well, why is that surprising? I mean, we live in a victim narrative society, and some of the biggest perpetrators of this victim narrative society are the same people who think that they are, you know, always taking accountability. That's not surprising.
Yeah. No, see, I can believe that. You see, damsel in distress just said the women, you see, men don't think there's anything wrong with Soon Yi and him being together and her being together. Soon Yi and him being together. People don't see that as a big deal because clearly they've grown to, again, he's normalized this for people. This has always happened though, back even in history where older men used to want to marry younger women, right?
Yeah, but not your daughter.
Yeah, but not your stepdaughter. The child that you've raised from, I think she was in her early teens when they first had her, or 10 years old. She was a bit older than the others because most of them she adopted while they were babies.
So I've got a question. So if I decided, or one of my friends decided we're going to start adoption processes and you know, looking after children. I, you know, grow these children up. I look after them.
Thank you, Mimi.
And then, you know, the female or the male child turns 18, or, you know, over here it's 16. So I can marry that child and I can start having sex with that child.
That's disgusting.
Do you see how it is?
It's disgusting.
So you've literally watched this child grow up. You've changed this child's diaper, or you brought it to teach this child how to write, teach it how to walk properly, and do things like you do as a parent. Then when they come of age, you start having sex with them.
But that's the thing.
Is it just me, or is the alley breaking up?
It's just you, I think.
Sorry, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that's how he sees them. I think he sees them as a mate even at that young age. I don't think he sees it as a daughter. I think he sees her as a mate, and it's like, I think it's because, remember, we're a society very, very obsessed with the Madonna and the garden tool syndrome. And I think that's why a lot of people date younger women, because it's that whole thing about being pure and being the first and upholding.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that fresh thing. Fresh.
Or you're just a pedo.
Yeah. No,
you know,
they like the whole idea of, you know, remember, you know, in movies, it'd be that woman laying in the field of greenery, and you know what I mean? A virgin, and right? Is that kind of what you mean, Ablabi? I agree.
You remember that movie, American Beauty?
Yeah.
That movie? Yeah. The kid was like 12 years old, and she's like, in a thing of roses. Like,
well, there you go. Maybe that's where I got it from. But
I'm
you know,
like, because I like watch the SVU, it does it grosses me out in terms of like people are doing that, but it doesn't, like, I don't know, I guess my stomach can put through a lot. So
it doesn't surprise you.
Yeah. Like, I'm not, but from what the pedophiles say, and when they discuss the children, they don't see them as children in a sense. They see them as people, and they think that what they're doing to them somehow is not harmful, and that they're just exploring. And instead of exploring what a younger boy wouldn't know what to do, him as an older man, he can give her that comfort. Like, they really do think these kids like it, and they have this sick sense.
They really.
But I don't know, maybe they think they're a child too. Maybe they have the mentality of a child but the physicality of a man.
No. They just, honestly, they have I forget what they call it. They call it like adult child love or something. That's why I have a problem with the phrase love is love, because love is not love.
No. When they say age doesn't matter and all,
I don't believe it.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And you know what
age does matter when you're with a, let's say, you know, for example, look at Scott Disick and Lisa Rinna's daughter. Why are you allowing your daughter to sell herself out to be with a man just so she can be on the beach and be seen by TMZ? Again, people are confused and their morals go out the window when other things are on the, should I say, when other things are in the running. Morals go out the window. Why would you? It's people normalizing the fact, because like I said, yet again, back in the day, this was normalized. You know, look at Bridgerton. They would make that young girl marry the old man, even though that, you know, they had 30 years in between them, but they would do that for what? For money, for better life, you know, for the name or whatever that man may carry. It's
not just them. You still see it. You still see 25-year-olds that marry 60 and 70-year-olds.
Yeah.
And you're like,
yes,
what are you doing? Like, simple fact is that he's not going to give you an optimal child. Like, I mean, some people worship money and they get what they get because of it.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, they would normalize. If they could normalize it, they would. Trust me. Right now, you know, all these cases that come out with teachers going with students and vice versa. That's crazy in itself. How are you in a classroom, grown-ass woman, doing your job and then get led? Shouldn't I even say led? How do
you know
you
what?
decide to then go with a young boy or vice versa, be led by somebody and
You know
ruin
what?
your career?
This is what I will say. When I was
Go on.
younger, it took me a long time to see those relationships as being not right, because
Yeah.
I could honestly tell you half of the girls that I went to high school with were like 15, 16, and they were dating guys like 25. And
Yeah.
at the time, I didn't see anything wrong with it. And then when I got to about 20, I'm like, wow, that was really something nasty.
Yeah.
But at the time, I just thought, you know, a 16-year-old boy is not what they want. This guy has money. He's taking them out. Like, I didn't even see it as abuse.
I remember I used to go to church, and there was a bunch of guys that were like, they were like the cool guys or whatever. And we were like, oh, we're going to go hang out. We're going to go to this party, whatever. Oh, they buy us drinks. We were like 17. These guys were like 30.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm just like, whoa, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
Like, that's so, like, these guys were literally getting us loaded. Thank God we always traveled in a pack. And we knew better than to come home outside of our pack. So nothing ever happened, I think. Thank God. Nothing, at least to me. But it was creepy. Like, it's really, really creepy.
Like, I remember when I was 15 to about 20. I still get older men, but I was getting men like in their 30s then. And and when I would tell them my age, it wouldn't even bother them. It'd be like, oh, okay, you're old enough.
What was it? I used to have a friend who used to say, if there's grass on the field, it's okay to play ball.
No.
It was really bad. Yeah. Like, I used to literally, this guy would always say that. And I was like, you didn't understand it as a kid.
Yeah.
But like, now I'm just like,
it goes over your head, isn't it?
Yeah.
But now you realize, I remember I had a neighbor in Holland, growing up. I had a neighbor who was the older brother of the girls I used to play with, right? The girls were similar age to me, but the brother, I was like mid-teens, maybe 16, 15, 16. This guy was a good 10 to 12 years older than us, if not more, right? Maybe even 15 years older than us. And I remember he used to always make sure he gets into the elevator with me at the same time and stuff like that. And when I look back now, he would like swipe his hands past my chest, and but now when you think of it, how naive was I? Because really, I could have reported that as harassment or abuse, really. But it's like you grow up thinking
he wasn't there because you were
and you think, this is just what he does. And then if every time you see him coming up the road, you think, oh, here he comes, let me just zip up my coat, or let me just, why did I feel the need to do that as a kid, even though he was the predator? He was just hot for young girls all the time.
He would have gotten violent, and that's the problem. See, because then when you reject them, they show you how much of a man they are.
Go on, Diali. I thought you were chiming in then.
But go ahead, Diali.
No, I wasn't chiming in. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, I just, like, they get violent then. Like, how many times, especially guys in their 20s, they think that rejection, a lot of them can't take rejection.
Yeah.
A lot of men in general can't take rejection.
True, but like, the older you get, you're more used to it. But that mid-20, fresh out of college guy, he loses his mind when you tell him no.
Yeah. Well, this is why a lot of the time you end up with these alleged rape cases, because in the heat of the moment, when the young man gets so, should I say, hot and bothered, it's like for some reason he has to go to the finish line. It's like there's no going back, right? So that wanting to release and get to that finish line now makes you commit rape. Why? Again, a lot of the time, these boys are not rapists that are out here doing this all the time. Sometimes these cases are a fact of they've drunk too much. Now they feel like they have to release. It's that natural instinct that, again, they can't seem to fight. And then it gets you in trouble.
And then there's those guys that are like super good. Like, I remember we had a swimming pool when I was like 13. in the backyard. And so like all summer long, like me and my little friends would be running around in our bathing suits, in and out of the house, in our bathing suits. And we used to go to my brother's room to bother him because he had a great stereo system and we used to love to steal his. And he would always be like, get out of my room. Go put some clothes on and get out of my room. My brother's 10 years older than us. We just thought we were being annoying little kids. But now looking back, he's like, get out of here. I don't want to have any issues with you guys, you know?
Yeah.
You know, there are those guys that are like, so I don't even want you around me. Like you are not going to be able to say anything about me.
That's
like
crazy.
get out. You know what I mean?
But you know what the interesting thing about it is when it happens to guys.
Yeah.
And when they're abused, I had somebody tell me that they were abused by an older woman. They don't see it as abuse.
Yeah.
They see it as like a relationship, and it's very odd. Go ahead.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I had a friend who actually was abused as an adult, and he's a big dude, and he drank too much, and he fell asleep, and he woke up with somebody on top of him. And he was like, what was I supposed to do? I wanted to punch her and get her off me, but like then I I'd catch charges.
Yeah.
But you know, like women are bad. Like some women.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Diali, you're awfully quiet today. Is it just my connection or is it yours?
No, this whole thing with Mia and Woody, it just so sad because if it is the truth, where were the adults? There was lots of adults that could have done something. There were people in power.
Yeah.
There were other families with money. There were people protecting them. There were the PR team. There was people watching. Watching. Where were the adults?
100%. They failed them. I mean, between the people that were around Dylan and even the siblings, you know, her friend, the family friend Priscilla, who walked in and saw that the fact that Kate was sharing the bed with her and only had on underwear and his chest was like he was naked. He only had on underwear. So the signs were there, but nobody, for some reason, again, there's this culture of hush, 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 don't say anything, pretend you didn't see, just walk past the room and pretend you didn't see. That's a lot of the time what these friends did, even though they knew what they saw is what they saw. But you sometimes, when you see certain things, you make yourself believe that's not what you saw and it's forgotten about, isn't it? So especially when it's something you feel like you weren't supposed to see, right? Because you weren't supposed to be there. So I think a lot of the time that plays a part.
I think a lot of it is honestly like just people, especially in that circle, like, you know, it's not my child. Oh my God, did you hear about Mia's husband? Oh my God, did you see what he was doing? Oh my God, he was doing this. Oh, poor Mia. Yeah. It's something to talk about. It's conversation, but you're not telling
100%.
the right people. Like,
yeah, they do that a lot, Leslie. They do that a lot. I had a recent thing where a child he wasn't being looked after properly. And the words out of the so-called concerned parent, the other parent, was, oh, well, it's not my child, nothing to do with me. And I tell you, I could have just dropped through the floor because I said, every child is your child. Every child. And that is what's wrong with the world today, because nobody took action. Nobody took initiative. Yes, a social worker that got fired and was reinstated. He's the only one that, or she, or if it was she, they were the only one that came forward and said, you know, I tried to do something. I tried.
Yeah. And I mean, in the media, they tried to throw him under the bus, but you know, I'm glad that he actually went back to his job, like I said, and he still works in child services. They tried to get an interview with him, but he declined to actually be interviewed for the documentary. So obviously he's just trying to keep his head down clearly and just do the job that he clearly loves doing and working primarily for the protection of these children, not necessarily working for the perpetrator or the name or whoever's involved, but the actual victim, these children that need a voice because they haven't got a voice at this moment in time.
It'd be interesting if anybody in the chat is actually in social services, if they could call in.
That would be really interesting, actually. If anybody's in the chat that works in social services, is a social worker,
Mum was a trained
I'd be
social
glad.
worker.
I'll drop the link again. Don't be shy. You can.
My mum was a trained social worker for 30 years. And some of the things that she would see, a lot of women, the guy would be beating the hell out of them, probably even, slapping the children. Yeah. And they were warned, either you choose. There was cases where she said the woman was told, either it's your kids or your man. And they chose the man. They chose the man every time.
A lot of them do, though. I mean, we've had cases where you are told either break up with this man, leave this man, don't allow this man to be back in your home, otherwise we're coming for you and your kids. So a lot of the time, these women will end up being in these abusive relationships over and over and over again, and choose these men over their children. Then you've got broken young women and boys who feel like mums always picked other people over us. Do you know what I mean?
Why is
mums
it always up to the woman to do this? Why is it that
it's not? It could be even dad. Sometimes the woman leaves and dad raises the kids, and they know mom's left me for a man, or daddy's left us for another woman. You know what I mean?
Because unfortunately, because the man is the stronger species, it's usually them being the aggressor, and so then it ultimately falls upon the woman. If the woman is the aggressor, then yes, the shoe falls on the other foot. Then it's up to the man to pick up. Yes. But unfortunately, most of the time in society, at least what we hear of, I'm sure that there's a lot of cases the other way, but I don't understand where all the aunties and uncles were. I don't know. But if I see something with my niece and nephew, I'm the first one that's going to be like, what's going on? Like, I'm not even asking permission. You're coming, you're staying with me. I have a spare bedroom. You're going to hang out here until we figure this out.
It's not just mums. Sorry, Leslie. It's not just mums, unfortunately. Dads have primary care of children. And dads always dads will make a bad decision for the sake of they don't want to be alone, and they do it for love. And you get these women that will come in and it's not just sexual abuse, it's mental abuse and just destroying a child's well-being. It's not just men. And unfortunately, society, we always assume, this guy is the aggressor or whatever. But usually women are absolutely terrible. Women are terrible.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I don't know. And give me shelter. I mean, teachers can call in. Doctors,
anybody who's a mandated reporter
can we be
or anything like that.
I know we're not talking about this, and this is very off, but what I didn't understand was when Kylie was dating Tyga, she was 16, he was 25.
Again,
And nobody at the production team said anything. Nobody, it was just
because they have enough money to do what they like. Yet again, whoever would probably have an issue with it, they would just hire a different production, a different producer, different person to do it. Somebody would do it and shut up. And clearly they just film it and shut up, don't they?
Yeah.
It was disgusting because she was so young. She was so young. And
so young,
And she had two parents in the house. Now, granted, one was, they both are attention seeking, but it just puts it in perspective that you can have all the money in the world. Everybody has their price.
Yeah. But I mean, remember, her dad was in the middle of changing himself, and she was out here just, popping bottles and hanging around with whoever young black rapper was giving her attention.
Of making decisions. So no matter what, at 15 years old, whether you think you're consenting or not, you are not consenting. Your brain is not capable.
You're a child. You're a child. Having two young people myself, I have to drum that into my children. You're a child. You do not know what's best for you. I'm the parent. I know. End of story. But with the those rich folk, those ones on the TV that you just mentioned. you've got to understand their way of doing things is different from our culture.
True.
You know, it's a lot different now. We I don't know about you ladies, but I don't think my mum would have had me, you know, knocking boots with a 25-year-old man at 15 under her roof.
No,
You know,
my mother would have.
If my mother
holiday.
found out that I was knocking boots, as you say, whether it was under her roof or anywhere else, I would have been chained to a radiator. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
No,
100%.
but the guy, and the guy also, and even if it was my son with an older woman, you know, that person would have been in jail.
Yeah.
Because I would have made sure the police are called.
Yeah, like that teacher that the father shouted her out and he recorded the conversation and he called her back and he was like, what are you doing with my son? I forget her name.
Yes, I saw that.
And
yeah,
the
and they
dad
called
was
her
the
out.
one who like called at her out and he recorded the conversation and he was like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna kill her. Like,
yeah. I'm going to
Yeah.
report you. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine though? Even I understand we always do talk about young girls and whatever, but even your young son, a boy that's going into puberty, what like you've stolen his innocence and all. If you're going to go and try and sit on top of my son when he's not even ready for all of that.
Miss Nabia, that's funny you should say that. I had a very promiscuous friend. And when I say she was promiscuous, you've got to believe me. And I made sure she was not coming here during my son's growing up time at all, even now, because she was the kind of person that would be making sexual advances towards my son and sleeping with him right underneath my nose.
That is
and
crazy.
I would never trust her. I would never trust her.
And there was also like that lady who was a teacher and she ended up messing around with like a 13 or 14-year-old and having a full-blown affair with him and got locked up. And had an affair with him again and went back to jail and then came out and they got married and they have 2 kids.
Yeah.
They're separated now. And she's screwed.
Yeah, they're separated. Yeah, but they've grown old. She grew old though. She did.
Yeah.
She died last year.
Laterno.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
You know, but what a stigma to bring your kids up with. Like my mom did this, and this is how I came to be because
this is my dad. Yeah.
The problem with that one was so disgusting. Because certain communities were sitting there defending her, talking about, oh, he looks like a grown man, so she wouldn't know.
Except that he was and that's somebody's son, remember? That's disgusting. Yeah.
And then had 2 babies by him. And you were like, what is this? And he was like 13. Talking about she was in love. Talking about, she's never been with a man like this before. She was in her 30s, well into her 30s. She had children who were similar ages. What is that? And people were actually defending her and talking about, he liked it. He looked like a man. I don't know.
Defending her, though. He had the Stockholm syndrome, that guy. I saw a video later on when the kids were teenagers and he was like 30s.
I saw that. It was he did. Leslie, you're so right. He looked like a child abuse victim, just sitting there.
Child abuse victim.
Yeah, he was a child abuse victim, but he actually had all the symptoms of one just looking at him. He looked like a damaged. He looked like a very damaged man.
I don't know, and I wouldn't be surprised if like Sun Yi turns around one day and she's like, "You stole my youth," and does something to that crazy old man.
Yeah, 100%. He's old already. He was old when he got with her. He was old. Yeah. And now it's like how old is she now? I need to Google exactly. I think she's in her 30s,
right?
No,
30s or 40s.
Hold on, I'm gonna
be older than that because they've been married like 20-something years.
They've been married a very long time. Yes. Yeah. I mean, when she was with him, she's 50. Yeah. 50. Oh, that's crazy. So she's not far off, and she's like 20 years younger than him, is she?
When did they get married?
They got married in 1997, I want to say.
You see, so the custody case and all of this is going on early 90s. So they got married within 5 years after they left her.
90 what?
Yeah.
92, the custody case was.
So
and then in 93 they made the judgment and denied him the kids and all of that, right?
no,
And then
she was 21, 22 when the case was going on, and she was quote unquote dating him.
also they've been married 27, about 28 years, 29.
No. They've been married 24, because remember, they didn't marry to 97.
He's 35
right, okay.
years older than her. He is 85 years old.
Jesus.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, that is disgusting.
But everybody's old now. All his children, because even the child he had with Mia Farrow, that child.
I was going to mention that, actually.
He's only 35.
The president of France is the same situation. He married his teacher, his history teacher, I think she is, and he's still married to her.
That was disgusting.
Yeah, the Macron, the president of France,
And
he's still married to his.
43.
Yeah, he's still married to his wife, and he met her in school. So, I mean, these things do happen, but it's this whole. It's again, the one Macron in France, they met as adults, by the way. She didn't persuade him as a teenager. But again, the problem is where the kids are young. The problem is not, oh, I'm 18 and you're 50.
If the child's in college, when you're a professor, you are not allowed to sleep with undergrads. You will lose your job for that. It doesn't matter because it's a power dynamic. You have the ability for this person to get a degree or not, and then you're going to sleep with them. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be doing that. They're even though they're adults, they are very early in the adulthood. And say you're having a relationship with your teacher in college, and all of a sudden you don't want to be with him anymore. He can fail you, essentially, and say you plagiarize, and then you're out of a school and you're out of a degree.
Yeah. So sometimes, regardless of what you do, really, okay, imagine you are a student who is of age and you're doing your master's or whatever. You could be in your 20s and your tutor is in his 40s, which could be an appropriate relationship. What can you do under the law, and what's not appropriate then?
Well,
does one of them have to leave the position?
No, but he cannot teach her, right? So this was
okay. Because as adults, you can have relationships that are appropriate. It doesn't matter if one is, the student and one is the teacher. You could all be of a certain age, right?
Well, because that used to happen with TAs.
Right.
Sit there and date their little college students. And because it was such a problem that they stopped using people who were because they were similar ages. One would be a junior, one would be a freshman. They cut that out and made everybody, graduate students, and had that they were not able to be with us when we lectured. They only had study hour because it was such a problem.
I'm curious though, because Woody Allen and Sun Yi have kids. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, and they're girls, aren't they? No, she has a girl and a boy. I'm curious if she ever leaves those children alone with that man.
I wonder as well, because she was in high school. Yes, he's always denied the fact that he was with her before she was of age. But the doormen and the maid who used to change the bed, remember, after she would leave, after Sun Yi would come and visit Woody, they all stated the fact that this child was still in high school, in her last year of high school. That's way before she was 18, right? He was dealing with her then, and then she went on to college, and then he obviously said they started getting intimate in her early 20s. But that's not true. That's not true.
Before then.
Yeah, he was in high school. She was in high school when he was.
She was in high school, 100%. She was in high school.
And I think high school started as soon as they got her.
Yeah. Because her school, remember, her school was right across the street from his house. Let's not forget. So she used to leave school and go there. Yeah.
Because you know what I'm very weary of? And people say I'm too harsh on this. Men who choose to live near high schools and don't have any children.
Right. Yeah.
There's no reason you as a man who don't have children should be living near a high school.
Or
Yeah, but you
any
can't-
type of school for
you
that
can't
matter.
assume that. No, you can't. You cannot give that. You can't give that stigma to men. You can't.
I'm
Because
not saying all men.
No,
I'm
not
not
all
saying
men.
all men. But there
Yeah.
is something, like, for instance, Epstein. His mansion is right next to a high school.
And
Yes,
so is the place in West Palm.
but
Yes.
remember that served, again, I agree with Ablavi, that particular case, that served the purpose for him, because he needed for those young girls. He would go there and, remember, have the other girls groom their friends to come over and be the girls that massage him and stuff. So remember, with him, it was a pyramid scheme of children.
Yeah. The
One
girls
friend
used
would invite 3 others. Those 3 would invite 5 others each, and then it would so forth and so forth. He had
Yeah.
You know,
a
DL, I see
sea
what
of
you're
young
saying
children.
I see what you're saying now, but I'm saying it in a stance of, I realize you can't always pick where you live, and if there's
No.
a high school, fine. But if I come to you and you say you always live next to a high school, I'm gonna look at you bizarrely.
Yes, that's true.
Well, maybe a little
Yeah.
side eye, like, hold on, why are you always living next to schools? Like,
And
what's going
another
on?
thing I didn't know is somebody told me was ice skating rinks and roller rinks is a big place that they find people at. And I was like,
Yeah.
really? But apparently a lot of young people go to those things.
Mm.
And Nurse Nerd brought up a good point. If we're going to talk about grooming, we got to talk about Jay-Z and Beyonce, because that relationship was crazy.
You think?
Yeah, she was young when they were together.
I mean, you know, again, he's probably, remember, I think she's learned that money is power at a very young age. So
Well,
them
that's
as a
not-
combination and being together, right? Them being together and combining their wealth and being this power couple and all that probably plays a big part in why she had kids with this man.
I mean, listen, I think there was some grooming, because it's been alleged he was with Foxy Brown when she was very young, when she was like a teenager. You know, him and the teenage thing has been out there for a while.
Yeah.
They said that because Foxy was young when she broke into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And she was way too young to be scantily dressed around grown men.
Right. She barely used to have anything on, and this was in the 90s, wasn't it? And this was like, wow. Yeah. I mean, Cardi B and all of that do it now, but that all stems from what Foxy used to do. Foxy was the only woman that when she'd go on stage, she'd have her legs wide open, crouching down. And remember, she used to sing with her legs open, right? And just crouch down like she's taking a shit.
MC Light did that way before that.
Oh, really? But no, but with provocative clothes. Yeah,
MC
Light.
I
think MC Light was always a bit more tomboyish compared to Foxy.
I don't know, maybe in that genre, but
yeah.
I mean, you also have the Britney Spears, the Christina Aguileras, like that was all that time, you know?
Yeah, but they were.
Yeah.
Britney Spears was very sexualized. I mean, Hit Me Baby, like I've looked at her videos now that I'm grown, and that one where she was the Catholic schoolgirl when she was 16
Oops,
was
I did it again.
super inappropriate.
Yeah.
Super inappropriate for her to be wearing that. And even Christina Aguilera with a genie in the bottle, you got to rub me the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you listen, and she's 16.
Yeah. You know, and they again, all these labels that were putting out this music, it was acceptable because, again, it was making everybody money. Hush, 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 hush. The parents are hush because their child's making them money and a whole income where they can buy homes and have a good life. And then, you know, the producers and whoever else is making money off them, they don't care. They're pushing it. They're pushing these young girls wearing crop tops with their tight bellies. I mean, remember, these girls' bodies hadn't even developed that much yet for them to be sexy. Let's just assess that.
But
these bellies and six-packs, these bellies and fake six-packs, these were young women bodies. They weren't even developed to have six-packs yet, if you know what I mean.
Bodies.
They were young, yeah. So you could put a child in any belly top and then sexify them, couldn't you? Think about it. That's exactly what they were doing, especially with the Britney Spears "Hit Me Baby One More Time." I mean, oh baby, baby. Remember, even how it starts is very sexual. Oh baby, baby. You know, all of that is sexual when you think about it. You're right, Ablavi. I fully agree. These things need to be assessed. Hence why a lot of the things that are out now, I do not allow my child to watch. She's not allowed to watch music videos, and you know what I mean? Like it's just not going to happen, because it encourages the idea of normalizing that behavior. You know what I mean? Normalizing the fact that as a young, whatever, 12-year-old who's only just developed, walk around with your belly button out and it's sexy. I mean, no, I'm not allowing that.
And my niece, she's 15, and my sister always gets on me because I'm like, can you put some clothes on? We're not leaving the house with you like this. Yeah. So she'll be wearing like short shorts and a little belly shirt, and I'm just like, my sister's like, oh, it looks good on her, and I'm like,
but it's society. It may look great on her, but it's society, unfortunately.
I'm like, she's 15, and I don't have eyes in the back of my head. No, I'm not leaving the house with you like that. Go put on a long t-shirt and some jeans.
Yeah, way too many predators out there. Way too many predators. You can't be too careful enough nowadays. It's more about, I think, installing self-worth, and you know what I mean, in young boys and girls, you know, not to feel like they have to conform to what everybody else is doing, because everybody else is getting half naked, you know. So
well, look at them on Instagram now.
Yeah,
they went from trying to be young to looking like they're 30. I mean, if you look at them on Instagram, what was that one? The Malu? She was like 12 years old twerking onto Instagram, and her mother was in the background like, yes, this girl is 18 and she has a full body makeover.
As in surgery and everything.
Yeah, she got her titties done, her butt done. She was a real skinny girl, and she was from Miami. And I remember she was like 12, twerking, throwing it back. I'm like,
and hold on, her family took her to have a surgery.
Yeah, I mean, listen, nowadays they're on Instagram and on YouTube, 17 years old, talking about getting a BBL, getting a body makeover, getting their lips done, wearing the Fashion Nova Express, titties out, short skirts. They're going to high school beat. They're going to high school wanting to dress like Gigi Hadid and Bella Hadid, and they're going for Halloween as Victoria's Secret models. Yeah. And they're young. I mean, some of these girls are in middle school.
Yeah. I mean, I blame the parents. What can I say to that? If the child wants to do it, if the parent is not stopping the child from doing it, why do you expect your child to have any type of morals as she's growing up or as he's growing up? Why?
But we all know you could be the best parent and it still can go. Because
of course, 100%. I mean, I'm nervous. I can talk all I like. She's only 9. The change will happen. I'm sure she'll be horrible when she's a teenager and not want to talk to me and stuff. But I'll deal with it and I'll adjust. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, in the meantime, I'm making sure she understands that her body is hers, and, you know, value yourself more than anything. Not belly cropped up this and cropped up that. Just because your belly's out, it doesn't mean just because you see everybody else with their belly out, it's nothing to be desired, because you're not missing out on anything. There's nothing you're missing out on, and I think that's the problem. That's just the whole
beginning. The outside is just the beginning. I mean, you should hear some of these conversations these young girls are having. You should hear how much they talk about sexual positions and what they do and what they don't do and what they like. They have videos of them on Pornhub and all types of things. I mean, it's really crazy out here. Yeah. And the parents have no idea. These kids are doing drugs on Monday and going to school, and the parents don't know nothing. They're getting pregnant and throwing the baby in the garbage. It's like, why are we still having this?
Yeah.
Why are children just out here running amok? But then you can't get mad because they probably have parents who's sitting here trying to be 25 too.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I agree. And actually, hey, go on, Leslie.
That's the bigger part of the problem. When their parent doesn't want to be a parent, they want to be your best friend. That you are her mother, her father. You're not their friend. It's like, I don't understand, like, why this is like become a thing. I don't know. My mom told me very clearly when I was a teenager, I'm not your friend. You can talk to me. You need advice. I'll be there for you, but I'm not your friend. Don't get it twisted.
I think you can be both. I disagree slightly. I think you can be both.
Yeah,
because
but my mother, or she's my friend any day of the week.
Yeah. But the thing is, these days, remember in our time, that probably worked. These times, there's a lot more, and the main thing is social media. If you have that approach that I'm the parent, I'm going to come down with a heavy hand, the child just clams up. And then the child goes and negotiates. The child goes and confides in the wrong person and gets the wrong advice. Now, my children, they've probably done things they haven't told me, but I know in my heart, my children, especially my oldest one, will confide in me and talk to me. And we keep talking. I said, anything that you don't share with me and you share with somebody else, I cannot save you if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
But I can't be too
keep it open.
I can't be too hypocritical because when I was a teenager, I did a lot of things I shouldn't have done. I went a lot of places I shouldn't have. Like when you look back,
all did.
But I knew the limits. You understand? Like I knew, like, because when I was in high school, social media had begun, but it wasn't like it was today. So like we had everything, but people really weren't into it. And then in college, it got like popular, but then it really blew up. I'm just so thankful I don't have, tweets, Instagram posts, and because this is forever.
Yeah,
you may change.
100%. Can you imagine the things you might have put on the internet if you did have it back in the day? That would today be looked at like, oh my God, you said that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Help us all.
It's crazy. And actually, I just
say that I grew up in analog every day.
Actually, H Caballero 1992. I was gonna say we did actually do a quick review on that on Gio's channel about the cuties. Remember, he did a quick little thing about that. That was on Netflix with those little black girls bending over and twerking and stuff and trying to be in some dance troupe that's performing all these sexualized moves. I mean, that one was it just really showed how the world of today is allowing kids to be perceived in that manner, and then they're putting a movie out like it's okay. I understand it probably
all the crotch shots.
All the crotch shots. I couldn't take it.
Here's the shorts. You could have shown this without showing all that. Like
the shorts were so short. The move she was doing, the fact that she was wearing her brother's t-shirt. Do you remember that? The brother's t-shirt was like a crop top for her. Why did she feel the need? Again, peer pressure. You saw these couple of girls that you thought, hey, they're doing something cool, not even realizing what you're getting yourself into, right?
Listen,
she snapped a picture of herself and posted it.
Yeah.
It's not that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that she was honest about what dancing is in society. Because a lot of people like to pretend that dancing is just about the fundamentals. No, it's about sex appeal. And these judges and everybody know it. Because the pageantry, Tyler and Tiaras, where they would have those little girls, nobody said nothing. They were highly sexualized. And these kids were under 5.
Yeah. Dressed up.
I don't understand why we still have a pageant scene for little kids after Jean-Benet Ramsey. Like,
and is anybody shutting those down?
No.
Nobody's shutting those down. And my young daughter dresses up, and some of the things she wears, but I laugh it off, and I said to her, if you go out on the street, it's not you, darling, it's others. You've got to understand how people will see you. You know, so all you've got to do is talk to them. But just like how the pageants, the little 5-year-olds, they're in full Dolly Parton makeup and big hair, and I mean that
lashes
is,
and everything.
it's wrong.
Bleaching their
Wrong.
hair, like, come on, can you make it any easier for the sickos? Can you?
Yeah.
Like,
But then there's the others. Like, I get in the middle of that, because then as you get older, like, when can you be sexy for you? Because I find that when you get older, like even now, when I was younger, I was so much sexually harassed that even now, I don't like going outside necessarily in something tight and that shows my body, because I know, and I shouldn't feel that way. I should be able to go outside and feel proud of my body, but sometimes I'm not. And it comes
because
from
I think you probably allowed society to get to you, but you should.
Yeah.
You should be able to feel like, I want to wear this. I mean, you're right. Sometimes I'm very much aware of, not always. I like to wear coats where it usually covers my bum, right? It's probably longer than my ass. So if I tend to, like now it's coming up to summertime, I might wear that little short jacket. I really do realize that the attention is different. And it's attention that I'm not asking for it. I just feel like wearing my short jacket. And so you can see my bum in my jeans. And you notice that men are looking more. You do get more attention. You know what I mean? It's just little things like this that we as women subconsciously do without realizing. You know what I mean? Like right now, there's a murder case going on. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Her name is Sarah Everhard. She'd gone missing last week. On Wednesday, went to a friend's house in London, left the house to go back to her own home and went missing. Now, move forward, we found out in the news that it's a whole metropolitan police officer who did something to her, because he's just been arrested and charged with her murder and disappearance. Ridiculous. Her body's been found yesterday. And like, what do we do as women? Because the conversation now that people are having a lot now in the UK, everywhere really, is women have always for years and years subconsciously been watching our own back, even though nothing is really going on. We always think that guy over there, that guy over there is following me, or the one behind me, he's dodgy late at night. You can't seem to walk home on your own. It's just crazy. So this is the latest kind of murder case that's happening in the UK. He's literally been arrested, Go on, Diali.
Yeah, sorry, but I'm glad you said that, because having a boy child growing up into a man, it's not about women being frightened of men. If you can't trust the police officer, who can you trust?
Hello.
Yeah.
What he did, ladies over in the States, what he did, he flashed his warrant card and lured her into the car.
Yeah, and apparently another detail the funny detail that came out is 3 days before she went missing, that girl Sarah apparently filed a police complaint against him for indecent exposure in a fast food restaurant. So we don't really know the full details of how he knows her and what's been going on, but clearly they had history. And for some reason, he panicked and murdered her, and then tried to cover it up by hiding her body.
It's not about, because me and my son we always have these long one-to-one conversations. I said, look, it's not about women now panicking that men are, need to be indoors by 6 or anything. This was a police officer. If you cannot, as a woman, trust the policeman that you see when you're walking home late, the world has gone mad. This is not just men, men are demons, men are this, men are that. This isn't it. This was a police officer that used his power, just like what happens over in the States, where the police use their power to do heinous things. That is all. It's a horrible thing that's happened, but we cannot demonize everyone.
Because you know what? I've had this incident happen to me where a woman is walking behind me, and it's not so much that she's walking behind me, but it's suspicious. And I'm not for it. And I don't know, because I don't want no van coming around and she keeps looking at me. And listen, I'll change avenues. I do not like that. Like when you hear somebody walking behind you, and the rate at what they're walking behind you, they should have passed you. But they
already,
are just
right.
Yeah, they're consistently walking behind you. And I've noticed with women, I've had that happen a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
We can't just pick.
Because what you're saying is they consistently stay behind you because they don't want to go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll walk, they'll speed up, or they'll slow down.
Yeah. But the thing is, we are so used to doing that. We don't realize we're doing it. I mean, even me, I walk my daughter to school every morning, but then the last block or so, she'll walk on her own. I go to the train station. She goes to school. She's got her phone, so she'll walk. But sometimes she'll meet friends on the corner, and I know she's with a friend, and I'll wave her by. But this one particular morning, I've been seeing this one particular guy, passed us by as me and her have stopped on the corner where we part, and he walked the way that my daughter's going, and my heart just said, why is this man going the same way as my child, and I'm going this way? Why is he going that way? But then I saw him the next morning and the morning after, and I've realized this man actually is going somewhere at that particular time. But for some reason, every morning I'm telling my child, be on your guard, make sure you look around. If you see the same person, be vigilant, and it's like we do this without realizing. It's just instilled in us to make sure, like, if I see that house has got the lights on, it's like you already think of an escape plan before anything's happened. Do you understand what I mean? If you're walking down the street on your own, you're probably already calculating how long it would take you to get to that house over there with the lights on, how long it would take you to maybe press emergency on your phone. All these things go through your head, don't they? So I think we all do it without realizing, and then we pass it on to our children. But I think the important thing is to remember is, if you've got young men, just teach them that if it is late at night and you do realize there's a woman there, she may be intimidated by you. Why don't you cross the road? Why don't we teach our sons to maybe cross the road, or go another way, because she feels intimidated by you, even though you might not be a perpetrator. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's what the conversation needs to be, more than the women constantly having to watch their back. Why do we have to carry pepper spray? Why do we have to carry, you know what I mean? What's it called? What's it called? The electric shotgun, the stun gun. Why do we have to buy these things to feel safer?
Listen, I got one better for you. I've memorized every single house in like a 6-block radius that has a ring cam in front of it. And I've already come to my senses, and I'm like, I'll just stand in front of that house and scream like a banshee. Yeah. Somebody will see me, and if not, if they do something to me, it'll be on camera.
And again, you see that ring camera thing? They saw her on that ring camera, the English girl. The last sighting of her was near her home due to a doorbell ring camera. So I think even those doorbell ring things, they're a blessing in disguise a lot of the time, because they pick up the most little things that you don't even realize could be evidence. You know what I mean? No other CCTV picked her up, but somebody's doorbell did.
It's motion detected. Yeah. So I never paid. I have my alerts off for my ring cam, but if somebody tells me, "Oh, I had a package delivered and it was stolen, and it was, I just delivered it. It said it got to," I'll go back on my ring cam if it's on my floor, and I'll look, and I'm just like, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, your husband picked it up and took it downstairs, or whatever, But those things really do come in handy. Also, it stopped my upstairs neighbor from spitting on my door, so that's great.
Oh.
Yes, he did that.
Oh, God.
Do it again so that I can file charges.
But no, this was actually a really good conversation, everybody. I appreciate everybody who joined in, everybody in the chat. Thanks for all the suggestions. Actually, that documentary, the Gabriel Hernandez documentary, I actually watched that a while back when it actually came out on Netflix. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
No, I can't watch anything like that with children. I can't watch it because
really good. It's really good.
No.
I mean, it is about
a little boy that they put in the box.
Yeah, the one that died, and yeah. I mean, that's a really good one as well. I might get into that actually, but let's I I just want to thank everybody who joined tonight. You know, this is a good topic, the Alan v. Farrow. Next week, I think it will be the penultimate. No, not penultimate, the ultimate, the last episode, right?
Conclusion.
So I think it's coming to the end of the documentary. So what I was thinking is, if you guys want to have a look at Murder Among the Mormons on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Since Andrea, you know, we talk about Andrea on Love After Lockup about Mormons and stuff like that. It's really, really interesting. You guys should definitely check it out. Murder Among the Mormons. It's on Netflix now. Check it out. 3 episodes. See what you think. And maybe on Monday, maybe after the 90 days, I might cover that for a little bit, and we can have a bit of a discussion about Mormonism and the history of that. But yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I appreciate the support, ladies. Ablavi, the Ali, Leslie, you guys know Ablavi. Follow her, Ablavi M. Yeah, join me
Congrats
again.
on the 200 subscribers. Woohoo!
Have I? Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks everyone for the support. I appreciate
Beautiful
it.
today, by the way.
Oh, thank you. You guys got
That
me to
was the
200
subscribers. That's where you got the other 198 subscribers.
Yeah. You need to stop. The Ali, you're terrible. But yeah, everybody, again, thanks for the support. I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed the conversations with everybody, you know, your input, discussions, whatever else. So yeah, join me again. I'll probably do another First 48 as well next week. I think I left a bit too much space between the first one and the one I did last week. So I'll try and do maybe 2 First 48s every week, so we can get into the crime thing, because I think people really enjoy that. So yeah, you know, click like and subscribe, thumbs up, and on 3 we'll see you guys next time. And yeah, thank you for all the support. Thanks, ladies, again. So 1, 2, 3, let's say bye. Bye.